everyone, welcome back to my channel Tutelage, a guide to learner. Here, this is Riparna. I hope you all are doing good. In my last session on education, we had discussed one of the most interesting chapter, that is research aptitude, and today we are going to discuss some topics, some another new topics of the same chapter, and that's why this session is called the research aptitude part 7. You all know that it is equally important in the UGC Net exam as well as PhD MPhil enrollment. It helps to update your subject research. Research aptitude is one of the most important chapter who wants to go with the research work. So please do follow this session. I hope it will be a really helpful session to all of you. But today we are going to discuss some important topics on this chapter. So now, learner, move on to the next slide and let's begin the session. So here we can see some topics which we are discussing today. So the first topic, that is discussion on term paper, seminar, conference, symposium, article, workshop, and we all know that research papers can have different forms. Okay, and now going to the second point, that is seminar versus workshop. So that indicates the differences between seminar and workshop. And last but not the least, that is the format of thesis. So uh, move on to the main slide and let's start the discussion. Our first topic, that is research paper. So at first we have to know what do you mean by a research paper. So basically, research paper is an essay or a report representing a viewpoint and research work about a topic. So that means research paper is supported by the work of others on the same or relevant topics, and it can be based on theory and material available which are available, and can be based on experiments also. So we have already told research papers can have different forms. The first form of research paper, that is term paper. Okay, so do you know what do you mean by a term paper? So as the name term paper suggests, it is based on term. That means it has to be submitted by the end of the term. So that's why this kind of research paper is called as the term paper. Term paper has to be submitted by the end of the term. This is one of the most important characteristics of term paper, and it is written by the students only. The topic for a term paper can be chosen by the student himself or it can be assigned by the supervisor, but it is usually written by the students. Okay, so term paper is subject to evaluation and grading because it has to be submitted by the end of the term, and it can be based on referred sources like articles, journal papers, magazines, newspaper, online blogs, and the reports of different institutions, but these should be cited properly in the references section. The sources can also be mentioned in the footnotes also. So term paper can also be based on the primary data. Okay, primary data. So term paper can also be based on the primary data, which is not depends on the secondary data. Okay, and the primary data, those data are important for those data are required and important for the term paper, for preparing the term paper, which is collected by the students only. Okay, so it can be assigned to individual students or to a group of students. After submission, the student may also need to prepare a presentation of it and present it to an audience, including the panel of teachers and other students. Such an exercise is very helpful for students as it provides experience of research to students, and term paper basically helps to learn about how to write a term paper, so how they should prepare presentations, etc. So these skills will be helpful for students in their life ahead as well, and communication skills of the students improve by the presenting the term paper. So these are the main advantages of the term paper. I think what do you mean by a term paper, and what are the characteristics of term paper, and what are the main advantages of term paper, all are clear to everyone. So now move on to the next slide. So here the next topic, that is research. Okay, so the heading is wrong. The heading is conference. So it indicates the definition of conference. So according to the Oxford English Dictionary, conference means a formal meeting of people with a shared interest, typically one that takes place over several days. So conferences usually last longer than the seminars. That is the difference between seminars and conference. So conference involves complete analysis of a topic with discussions between the participants for concluding results. And it is different from the seminar in the way that interaction in seminar is like classroom interaction. We all know what do you mean by a seminar, but we will discuss it later. So seminar, so interaction in seminar is like a classroom interaction where experts share knowledge with audience, but in conferences everybody participates actively in discussion. So in conferences there is a two-way communication. Okay, so opinion of every person matters. I think this is clear. Okay, the symposium is basically related to the conference, so that's why here we can we can say the what do you mean by a symposium? Okay, symposium. So, what do you mean by a symposium? Symposium is like a small scale conference. Conference is basically a large scale meeting, a large scale formal meeting of people, but symposium is a small scale conference. So, symposium is a kind of conference also. I think what do you mean by a symposium is clear. So now going to the next point, that is article. Okay, that is research articles. So basically research articles are written by scholars and scientists. We have already told term paper is usually written by the students, and research article are, are written by scholar and scientist. Okay, so that is the basic differences between research article and term paper. Okay, so article basically are known as scholarly on academic paper, not the term paper. I think this is clear. Okay, so and article is also related to the research and present the views of the author on a topic. So these can be based on the primary or secondary data. So another differences between article and term paper, that is term paper is depends on the primary data. Okay, but article can be based on the primary or secondary data, but term paper cannot be based on the secondary data. So that's why there is a difference between article and the term paper. Okay, so and I think this is clear. So articles are published in renowned journals related to the subject of research. Obviously these are not subject to evaluation. So the subject so basically uh, term paper is subject to evaluation and grading purpose, but articles is not subject to evaluation, and that's why which has not to be submitted by the end of the term. Okay, so there is a difference between term paper and the article. Okay, so articles can be submitted anytime, and I have already told these are published in renowned journals related to the subject of research, and some journals publish articles only after peer review. So at first we have to and then we have to know what do you mean by a peer Peer means friend, peer review. Okay. So, what do you mean by a peer review? Peer review means a review of an article by two or more experts from the same field of research. We have already told peer means friend. So, peer review means review of an article by two or more experts from the same field of research. So, article can be research article or it can be review article. So, article is of two types, research article and review article, but article is also known as an academic paper. This is not the term paper. So, that is the basic differences between the term paper and the article. Because term paper is usually written by the students, but articles are written by scholars and scientists. Term papers depends on the primary data. Articles can be based on primary and secondary data, and these are not subject to the evaluation at the end of the term. So I think this is clear. What do you mean by a term paper, articles, conference, symposium? Okay, to everyone. So now move on to the next slide. Our third topic, that is difference between seminar and workshop. So at first we have to discuss what do you mean by seminar, and then we will discuss workshop. Okay. So seminar means an occasion when a teacher or an expert and a group of people meet to study and discuss something. So in seminar, an expert delivers lecture to a group of participants, and this is similar to a classroom gathering, classroom interaction. We have already told that part. And articles are presented in seminars to spread awareness about new research studies. So it is a good way to provide knowledge to students and others about a field. Participants can clear their doubts by asking questions and through active discussion. For example, in a seminar organized on state of agriculture in Punjab, the experts of this study area will present their findings. And now move on to the other thing, that is a workshop. So workshop basically refers to meeting at which a group of people engage in intensive discussion and activity on a particular subject or project. So according to the Oxford English Dictionary, workshop means a meeting at which a group of people engage in intensive discussion and activity on a particular subject or project. So, workshop is similar to seminar in the sense that it also has a group of participants and some experts, but it is different in the way that it is more of practical nature. Workshop is more of practical nature. The participants just do not have to listen to an address or a presentation, but they have to perform as well. So that's why it is more of practical nature. And workshop is usually organized to provide a skill. For example, we can say workshop organized on use of data analytics in research will provide training on the use of different data analysis softwares in research. So this is the perfect example of workshop. So now move on to the next slide, and where we can see some differences between seminar and workshop. So we can see the first difference, that is seminar has large gathering than that of a workshop. We have already told that kind of word. Okay, so now move on to the next difference, that is seminars have generally have one way communication. We have already told when we are discussing conference, the meaning of conference. We have already told seminars, in seminar there is a one way communication, but in conference there is a two-way communication. Okay, seminars have one-way communication and workshop has two-way communication. So there is a big differences between seminar and workshop, because workshops have two-way communication between the expert and the audience. Now move on to the third difference, that is seminars are of shorter duration than the workshop. Obviously, seminar has large gathering, so that's why seminar span duration span is short than the workshop duration. Okay, and so duration of the workshop basically depends on the time required to learn the skill. So that's why workshops, the duration of the workshops larger than the seminars one. So now move on to the last difference, that is question session in seminars begins after the end of the presentation, whereas in workshop questions can be asked anytime, because workshop is more of practical nature. So that's why in workshop you can ask questions anytime, but in the seminar section, uh, question session begins after the end of the total presentation of experts. I think this is clear. And workshops obviously tend to be more expensive and difficult to manage than seminars due to practical work or exercises in workshop. I think this is clear what is seminar and what is workshop, and what are the basic similarities and dissimilarities between seminar and workshop. So now move on to the next topic. So what do you mean by a colloquium, learner? Colloquium is basically a gathering like an academic meeting or seminar where specialists and experts deliver lectures on a particular topic. So in the plural form of colloquium is colloquia, and it is basically a gathering which is called the academic meeting or like a seminar. Okay, so we have already told what do you mean by a symposium. Symposium is basically a kind of a conference, and colloquium is basically a kind of a seminar. That is the difference between symposium and the colloquium. I think this is clear. So now move on to the next topic, that is webinar. So webinar are like seminar over the internet. That is the basic differences between seminar and webinar. Here, participants sitting across distant geographical places can attend the webinar together, as there is no compulsion of physically visiting the place. So it can be economical, that's why it can be economical than seminars, as leisure arrangements will be required, but the presenter and audience should have good internet connection for conducting webinars successfully. Otherwise, it's the purpose of webinar will not be served. Webinars can be streamed. We have already known it can be streamed in the form of live sessions over YouTube and Facebook, etc., where there will be free for everyone, or a registration fee can be set, and stream can be made private so that only those persons who have paid for it can watch it online. So webinar is basically is like a seminar over the internet. That is the basic differences between the webinar and the seminar. So now going to the next topic, that is format of thesis. So before going to the discussion on the format of thesis, at first we have to know what do you mean by a thesis. Thesis or dissertation is a document about the research work and which is written for a post graduation or a doctoral degree. It has details about the research problems, research proposals, and the findings. So I think this is clear what do you mean by a thesis and all. So Lana, now move on to the main topic, that is format of thesis. We have already told what do you mean by thesis and all. So format of thesis writing is similar to that of a research dissertation. Thesis has different chapters. It begins with an introductory chapter, followed by a chapter on review of literature, research methodology, data analysis, conclusions, and bibliography. So the format of thesis is given below. The first page, that is title page, second page certificate, third page acknowledgement, fourth page table of contents, fifth indicates list of tables, sixth indicates list of figures, and seventh indicates list of abbreviations which are used in the thesis or dissertation. Okay, so it is important to remember this sequence. So first page, that is a title page, because title page mentions the title of the study along with the name of the author and supervisor and name of the institutions and year of submission. Now going to the second page, that is a certificate. Certificate states that the thesis is the original work of author and all the sources referred to have been cited. Third page, that is acknowledgement, and which is one of the most important page of thesis or dissertation, because acknowledgement expresses author's gratitude to all those who have helped him or her in the course of the research. Now going to the next page, that is table of contents. So table of contents has information about the chapter title and its page number only. So table of contents indicates chapter title and the page, its page number. Now going to the next page, that is list of tables and figure. Okay, so list of tables and figures present the titles of the tables, figures and their respective page number. So chapter title and its respective page number indicate is called table of contents, and all things are included in the table of contents page, but titles of tables and figures and their respective page number are included in the page, that is list of tables and figures. And now move on to the last page, that is list of abbreviations. So list of abbreviations provide the expanded form of all the abbreviations used in the thesis or dissertation. So now move on to the next slide, where we can see the first chapter, that is introductory chapter. So the here we can see the first chapter, that is called introduction. Okay, so introduction is basically the first chapter which familiarizes the reader with the topic of the research, its background, its objective of the study, etc. Now going to the next chapter, that is review of literature. So review of literature is one of the most important chapter of thesis or dissertation, because it provides a critical analysis of existing literature on the topic. It gives insights about the researchers already conducted and their shortcomings also. The next chapter, that is research methodology, provides details about the different methods which have been used in sampling, which have been used in collecting data and analyzing it to verify hypotheses. So all things are included in the third chapter, that is research methodology. Okay, so those different types of methods which have been used in sampling process, collecting data and analyzing it to verify hypotheses. So all things are included in the third chapter. Now move on to the fourth chapter, that is data analysis and the presentation. So data analysis is one of the most important chapter of thesis or dissertation also. So because in this chapter data can be presented in the form of text, tables and graphs, and the last chapter, that is summary and the conclusion. It provides conclusions of the study, and that is the inferences and generalizations are presented. The next section, that is bibliography, and the last section, that is appendix. So the bibliography. So do you know, learner, what do you mean by a bibliography? So bibliography is here all sources which have been consulted are mentioned. So these may or may not be used in the study. So bibliography means all sources which have been consulted are mentioned. So this is known as bibliography. Okay, so like books, magazines, newspapers, journals, articles, and so on. Okay, so though all things are mentioned here in the in the section that is called the bibliography section. So the next section, that is appendix. So bibliography is followed by appendix, which forms the last part of the thesis or dissertations. All questionnaires which are used in the thesis or dissertations all are included in the appendix part. Okay, so I think this is clear. Okay, so there are four sections basically. The first chapters, the first section that includes title page, certificate, acknowledgement, table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, list of abbreviations, and the second main section, that is the chapters, which includes introduction, review of literature, research methodology, data analysis, and summary and conclusion. And the last two sections are bibliography and appendix. I think this is clear what is the format of thesis or dissertations. Okay, so learner, we are done for the today's session. I hope this session will be very useful to you. If you like my session, do not forget to like, share, comment. Please do some support and subscribe to my channel for getting more useful session. I will come again with a new session. Till then, stay tuned and please press the bell button for getting notifications from my side. Thank you. Keep commenting. Happy learning.